Hi, everyone. My special guest today is Garrett Shakstad. Garrett is a senior recruiter for a regional CPA firm called Squar Milner, which has 9 office locations, 6 in Southern California, 3 in Northern California, and interesting, 1 in the Cayman Islands. I asked Garrett to come speak today to share some information about his firm and why it's a great place to work for. But more importantly, I wanted him to come today to talk about recruiting. For those of my viewers who don't know anything about recruiting, recruiting is a term used when college students apply for summer internships or for full-time job opportunities upon graduation. It is something that is really stressful for most college students. Thus, I thought Garrett would be the best person to talk about this because he's actually been on both sides of the aisle. So Garrett, thanks so much for coming to do this video with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about it. It's one of those things that I get to blend a little bit of my personal interests with a lot of my professional interests. So happy to do it.
All right, well, let's get started. To begin with, can you just briefly introduce yourself and share with my students a little bit about your background as well as your work experiences?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm born and raised in Southern California. I grew up in Manhattan Beach, California. I went to Maricosta High School. Trust me, I had no idea what accounting was, what public accounting was. My mother is a 4th grade school teacher. My father is a retired firefighter. From Maricosta High School, I went to El Camino College in Torrance. From El Camino, I transferred to USC, was studying accounting. Even how I got into accounting was just sort of, when I was younger in high school, I played in punk bands. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew my band wasn't going to make it big. I really liked the music industry. My game plan at that point was to try to get a job in the music industry. And that USC offered a degree in music industry. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. My mom got her MBA from USC. I'd liked USC when I was a kid, so I knew that I wanted to go there. I had no idea what I wanted to study there, but I knew I had always wanted to go there. So from El Camino, when I started taking classes at the junior college, one of the classes I took was the introduction to financial accounting. And, I was surprised at the time that I really liked it. It just, all of a sudden, other subjects that maybe I struggled with, I was pretty good at accounting. The pieces fit. I loved the satisfaction of balancing an equation. And I did pretty well in the classes. And so that was my first taste of accounting and how I even got to accounting in the first place. So once I transferred to USC, I decided to make that my major. And once you do that, you kind of get sucked into this world of public accounting. And from USC, I graduated, got my CPA license, worked for a couple different firms, left, worked in private industry as a senior accounting manager for a digital advertising company, and then came back to Squar Milner in the role of a campus recruiter. So that is the quick version of my career so far.
All right. The next thing I wanted to ask you, there are kind of 2 related questions. Now, when you graduated from USC, you started off working in auditing or assurance, right? And then you worked at BDO, and then you worked at Squar Milner, and then you worked for another firm. So you started off doing accounting, and then you pivoted. You then switched into working as a recruiter, right? You started working in human resources. So what made you want to transition from something very technical such as accounting to HR, which is something that's more focused on people skills? And also, was that transition difficult? Because I tell my students accounting is a great stepping stone. Now, if you enjoy it, keep going at it, right? Keep advancing developing your career in accounting. But it's a good stepping stone. If you want to pivot to do marketing or if you want to do HR, you can also do that. So could you answer why you made that transition? And also, is it, as I described to students, is it easy to make that transition, or is it very challenging?
Yeah, great question. I always kind of joked that accounting was a wonderful profession to do if you didn't know what you wanted to do. It was, you get a specific skill set, you get a technical skill set. And let me first start this by saying I really, for all of my 20s, I had no idea what I wanted to do. To be very honest with you, I felt somewhat pot committed to accounting because I went to a private school in USC. And even though it was only 2.5 years for me at USC because I transferred, I felt obligated because of the high tuition costs that it didn't matter. I was absolutely going to be working in accounting whether I wanted to or not. To be fair, I always wanted to me, accounting is simply a foundation. It's a lens through which I chose to see the world. I really wanted to be able to pick up a set of financial statements, read them, and understand them. From there, I didn't know where I wanted to go, but I at least knew that at the start of my career, that was going to be the foundation. That having a CPA license, that being able to pick up a tax return or a set of financial statements and be able to figure out what's going on there was important to me. And I guess to really back it up even further, if I look back and try to put the pieces together for what I wanted to do, I've always been interested in why people do the things that they do. And when I was in high school and I was a little bit more cynical about the world, or maybe the cynicism hadn't set in yet. In high school, I probably was more optimistic. I was really into politics. I like debating. And the reason people do things is because they're trying to find the right answer and the morally correct thing to do, right? Then the cynicism sets in and I said, no, the only reason people do anything is money. So if I can learn how this financial system works, if I can be financially literate and understand financial statements, I can understand why people do the things that they do. And then as I got even older, kind of late 20s into my early 30s now, and I finally it finally hit me that people don't always do things just because of money. I mean, obviously the money part of it is like if I wasn't paid, I wouldn't do what I'm doing right now. But if you paid me another $20,000 a year to be a lawyer right now, I wouldn't do it. I love what I'm doing now. And so kind of this foundation in accounting was just that. It was a foundation, and where I went from there, it didn't matter. I knew I wanted to see the world through a financial lens. The transition to the recruiting side came because I liked understanding what motivated people and why they did what they do. Why do certain people choose one firm over another? Why do certain people choose some college over another when it's not money? When the tuition costs are equal, what makes someone choose UCLA over Cal Berkeley, right? And so kind of that transition into recruiting, that was the motivation for it. Was it difficult? Parts of it, yes, because much like accounting, there's a really big attention to detail. And when you screw up something in accounting on a technical level, it's because you probably didn't understand something technical. On the recruiting side or on the HR side, usually it's because you forgot some detail about a date or a time, or in an offer letter, you forgot some detail, or in an email to a candidate, you forgot something. And they're easier things. It's about remembering something as opposed to something technical. So there was an element of the recruiting that was harder for me in terms of that detail orientation and that focus on the detail as opposed to the technical side.